Hello and welcome to our 7-8 minutes of weekly Torah talk. Our guest today is Rabbi Josh Whinston from Temple Beit Emes in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Our Parsha is Beshalach, and in this Parsha we have many events. Soon after allowing the children of Israel to depart from Egypt, Pharaoh chases after them to force their return. The sea splits to allow the Israelites an escape route. The Egyptians drown. The people sing a song of praise and gratitude to God. In the desert, they suffer thirst and hunger and repeatedly complain to Moses and Aaron. God sweetens the bitter waters of Marah and later has Moses bring forth water from a rock. He causes manna to rain down from the heavens. In Rephidim, the people are attacked by the Amalekites. The first pasuk of our parsha says, ויהי בשלח פרעה את העם, ולא ניחם אלוהים דרך ארץ פלישתים כי קרובו, כי אמר אלוהים, פן ינחם העם בראותם מלחמה ושבו מצרימה. It came to pass, when Pharaoh let the people go, that God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, for it was near, because God said, lest the people reconsider when they see war and return to Egypt. So Rabbi, we begin this parsha with a show with lack of confidence. God doesn't trust the people to take the shorter route, maybe because he knows that they will not trust him enough to bring them in one piece to the Holy Land, right?
Uh, yeah, I mean that seems to be the case. And at the same time, you'd think that that all of the plagues would have done the trick for our ancestors. That they would have had complete confidence in God, but still they don't.
This is a recurring theme throughout the parsha, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Not just the parsha, but almost the entire Torah.
That's true.
To a certain extent, right? So it goes to show us the how difficult belief can be. In particular, in the kind of God that we talk about as Jews. We don't have an idol standing in front of us to make contact with exactly. So that's a very difficult thing that God is asking from us.
And you say this is something that haunts us throughout the Torah, but maybe in this parsha it is somewhat more surprising because that's the first time. They just came out of Egypt, and maybe we as readers expect them to trust God, and then even when they come to the first real test, when Pharaoh is chasing them and they reach the Red Sea, we see first such demonstration of lack of confidence.
Sure, and also, I would imagine coming out of those hundreds of years of slavery, that's a scary moment too. Freedom in that moment. We talk about identifying with the aggressor, and to what degree were our ancestors identifying with the Egyptians, and thinking to themselves, well, this is a scary situation, and to be at war right away would be even more terrifying. I think for good reason, God decided to take them the long way around.
So what happens just moments before the sea departs and they must cross?
So right in chapter 14. They're getting pretty upset at Moses, and maybe it's their first really sarcastic statement. We get some sarcasm from Bnei Israel a number of times in Torah, I think, but certainly
this is a recurring this is a recurring theme, not just for the Torah, but for the entire history of the Jewish people, I'd say.
Fair enough. Yes. But it's that sarcasm, saying, there weren't enough graves in Egypt to Moses that seems to cause him to tell them to be silent, and to stop talking, which is a really interesting juxtaposition, I think, to how this narrative begins, with the Israelites after so many hundreds of years of oppression, calling out to God, that it was their calling out, and God sort of remembering our ancestors in Egypt, that the Yetziat Mitzrayim began. And so for me, that just feels like an intense moment where you have the leader of the Jewish people at that time saying, "Okay, stop talking, stop complaining, stop maybe with specifically the sarcasm that they bring to this." And then immediately the next verse, in verse 15, God saying, to Moses, "Why are you praying to me? Why are you calling out to me? You need to move. You got to get these people to move." And so it's not just the juxtaposition of the original comment from the Israelites at the beginning of Shemot, but also in this moment where Moses says, "Be silent," and God says, "Moses, you too be silent and get moving."
So we see, what we see here are the seeds of the ongoing frustration of both Moses and God that we will keep seeing throughout the rest of their journey.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly, yes, for sure, right? I think both God and Moses get frustrated with the people, and at the same time, rightly so, that they complain and that they feel the way that they feel. I think that too often we don't identify with the Israelites in this situation, where we sort of focus on God and Moses and their reactions. But it must have been a very trying situation for them, full of fear of what the possibilities were. Here they are; they see the Egyptians approaching them. They see a sea in front of them. I mean, that must have been terrifying to be in that moment. What do you do in that moment? And I think that's a moment that many of us can relate to. In our own personal ways, in the lives that we each lead, of a pharaoh or an army behind us, and something in our way of what's going to happen next.
So your assumption is, had we been there, we'd also complain.
Probably, I think most of us would. Yeah, being in a large group of people. Unsure of what's going to happen next. Am I going to die? Do I see that? I see this army approaching? Am I going to die right now? How can I go? I can't just jump into the water. I mean, that's the space that our ancestors were in, both physically and psychologically. I mean, it is an incredible moment that we see right before the sea splits.
I always wonder why wouldn't they prepare the people? Just tell them, okay, we are going to travel now for 2 days, and then the sea will part, and then we'll cross it. Why don't they have a schedule for the journey?
Well, I mean, partly because and we see later in the Parshat God saying, and now the Israelites will really understand my power and my might when they see this happen, right? So I think that's part of it in terms of the narrative, but I mean, I don't know if you've been on a long road trip before, but it is those moments of the unplanned moments, at least for me, that I love the most, because they offer such when you can't prepare and something incredible happens in front of you, that is life changing. So I think it's a good thing, actually, that they weren't prepared for that moment. It allowed for it to be even more impactful.
And then again, they just cross the sea and they sing the song, and moments later they go back to complaining.
Yeah. And you want an answer to that?
That's why I called. You're the rabbi. You must have all answers.
I don't think so. I don't know that the answer is so different for me. That it doesn't the yes, God is incredible. We've seen this miracle. The Egyptians are no longer pursuing us, and we don't have food and water. I mean, that that is in terms of issues of safety and security. No, you don't want the person coming after you and killing you. But then, if you don't have access to your basic needs, I don't know that the fear necessarily dissipates, and that the people needed access to their basic needs, and they received it almost immediately. And yet, of course, as we know, they continue to complain, and still to have the sense of sarcasm that they brought to that first complaint in the beginning of chapter 14. And I know that we joke sort of about the sarcasm of the Jewish people. I mean, from then until now.
Right.
I remember when I started rabbinical school, one of my teachers, Rabbi Richard Levy, he talked to us about sort of trying to quell our sarcasm. Sarcasm can be very detrimental to us, and I think that although hopefully most of us use sarcasm for humor, it is biting, and it's meant to be biting, and there's something to learn from Moses saying to the people, enough with the sarcasm. Yeah, we're in a dire situation, but maybe sarcasm isn't the right thing in this moment. Maybe we have to move beyond ourselves and move forward into this great unknown, this sea that stands in front of us.
Rabbi, I get a sense that you do have many answers. Thank you so much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.